Hello and welcome to this season's debut episode of IDTV, San Francisco City College's premier variety and entertainment show produced by students for students. I'm Adonica Shaw.
And I am Erishek, and today we have got a special show for you. Well, I mean, they really all are special, but today on IDTV, we're going to take a closer look at breast.
Excuse me?
Breast cancer awareness, silly, supported by the LGBT community of San Francisco.
More on that in just a moment. Hey, Eris, did you know that the studio is here in the heart of the Mission District?
Yeah, of course I knew that. We just came here 2 weeks ago for auditions.
Right, but I think that you'll get a little different insight after you see Eric Wilson's exclusive report. Then we have our first PSA of the show produced by Greg Teets.
Greg has found a fabulous way to choose which local charity benefits when you donate to a community thrift store. And don't you just love fashion?
Sure do, and combined with charity, it's definitely a win-win. But first, let's check out some of the wonders behind the fascinating Mission District.
Here we are in the year of your Lord, 2010. That's 26 years from Orwell's apocalypse and just 2 years from the Mayans. Still no Big Brother, but Jesus coming soon. Here's a brief look back into the history of the Mission District. Not unlike the rest of the country, the Bay Area was once a flourishing habitat for wildlife and a home to native peoples. The Muwekma Ohlone had been living in the area for thousands of years before, in true imperialist fashion, Franciscan missionaries paved the way into the region. In the years after the arrival of the Franciscans, the Ohlone people became the backbone of a slave economy. True to historical trends, the Ohlone were nearly driven to extinction in a few decades. The Franciscans settled to build Mission Dolores on the shore of what was once a lagoon, smack dab in the middle of what's now the Mission District. San Francisco was becoming the epitome of manifest destiny. The discovery of gold in the region brought thousands prospecting for fortune. Almost overnight, San Francisco grew to the largest city on the West Coast. The Mission became home to German, Irish, Italian, and Polish immigrants and became an enclave for the blue-collar workforce. In the aftermath of the 1906 earthquake, the Mission was relatively untouched, making it prime real estate for businesses and people looking to rebuild. The Mission remained a predominantly white area until around the 1940s, when an influx of Latin American immigrants initiated White Scare. The majority of the white community flees from the Mission. In 1961, some genius at El Faro Taqueria wraps the normal contents of a burrito with the addition of rice, sour cream, and guacamole. The simple yet genre-defying super burrito is born. The 1970s see the advent of the Chicano art movement. Murals celebrating Latino culture enliven the neighborhood. Attracted to the diversity, creative minds begin to move in the area to cultivate culture, art, and music. During the late 90s dot-com boom, however, the neighborhood becomes a real estate commodity. As the young, white, and affluent flock to the area, the local flavor begins to lose stake. Today, the Mission is a thriving neighborhood where music, art, and culture collide. Although the threat of gentrification looms overhead, the resident community works together to keep the establishment at bay and to keep the Mission a unique and positive representation of the city as a whole.
Community thrift store started in the 80s, originally to support the AIDS community and people suffering from HIV and AIDS, and we've grown to include over 200 charities now. What I think is really unique about this thrift store is that you have the option to choose where you want the money to go. One of our local charities is La Casa de las Madres, which is San Francisco's first domestic violence shelter for women and their children. We also work with Abada Capoeira, which seeks to provide empowerment of youth. If you bring in your CDs or gently used clothing and furniture, it could help fund a dance class at Abada Capoeira. You can donate items on Sycamore Alley, which is located between 17th and 18th Street. The donation door is open every day from 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. Proceeds from the sales of the items benefits the charity of your choice. We work with over 200 charities throughout the Bay Area, and all our charities and links to their websites can be found on our website, which is communitythrift.sf.org.
What a great PSA. Wonderful job, Greg. Folks, we have a special guest here. It's Pablo Velez in the studio today. He's actually going to perform his story about two teams, Once Caldas from Colombia and Boca Junior from Argentina. But first, let's talk to Pablo himself. Hello, how are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you, Adonica, for having me here.
Okay, well, why don't you tell us a little bit about when you became interested in storytelling?
I started as a hobby, and then when I found the possibilities of creativity, imagination, and improvisation that storytelling has, I changed my hobby for a career.
Wonderful, wonderful. So do you think that's possibly like why you started writing your stories, because the career was so intriguing itself? And, you know, in terms of your writing, what do you want people to take away from that? What do you want them to feel from your writing?
I want people to think about the possibilities of writing and tell their own histories. Anyone can do it, and it's a really powerful experience to write your histories and to tell your history. And anyone can do it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So in the video here, you know, you see a lot of young kids, you're teaching kids. So what actually got you to start teaching others to do this? I mean, I know that you're passionate about it, but what started, you know, you getting young women, or excuse me, young children involved in this type of art? So.
I want to teach, I want people to learn the possibilities that I talked about. Like when you tell your own histories, that is a mechanism of empower yourself.
Wonderful.
And that's what I'm looking for.
Wonderful, wonderful. And finally, I have one more question. I'm sure you get it all of the time, but why do you have your stories in Spanish opposed to English?
Well, because we live in a multicultural society, and we need multicultural exposure, and tell the histories in Spanish is a way to say, to make realize that we are in a multicultural society, and we don't have to create walls or barriers for
Wonderful.
that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now we have an amazing performance. Let's take a look.
El secuestro del viejo Antonio. Goles son amores. Habíamos planeado el secuestro del viejo Antonio porque el viejo Antonio nos dijo que el mismo día de la final saldría muy temprano para la finca de su hermano. Como no tenía carro, le pedimos un bus prestado al tío de Juan Sebastián. Juan Sebastián mismo manejó el bus, en el cual recogimos al viejo Antonio muy temprano en la mañana. Ya habíamos averiguado el itinerario. El viejo Antonio se montó, le cobramos el pasaje, obviamente. Todos teníamos la cara tapada, los que habíamos hecho visita, para que no nos reconociera. Las banderas debajo de los asientos. Cuando el viejo Antonio notó que el bus no cogió por el desvío que llevaba a la finca, el viejo Antonio preguntó, ¿y a dónde vamos? Juan Sebastián, magnífico. ¡11! El viejo Antonio dijo, ¡irresponsables! ¡Me van a matar! ¡Me van a hacer dar un infarto! ¡Yo no voy al estadio! ¡11! ¡11! El viejo Antonio, dándose cuenta de cuál era su destino, de los pies a la cabeza, tomó una bandera.
That was an awesome, awesome, awesome performance, Pablo. Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. Now let's check out some of City College's sports with Andrea Medina in a Sports Minute.